Hello everyone, welcome. Today I am once again joined by Bandar Alsharif from the Anti-Zionism and Racism Association in Jordan to talk about the Gaza ceasefire. So, to begin with, why do you think this ceasefire, this deal has gone through now specifically?
Since the deal started and everybody's analyzing and discussing what happened and how it happened like this. First of all, we didn't expect this deal. It's better than what we expected, actually. The most important part of the deal is the withdrawal, the full withdrawal of the Zionist army from the land of Gaza. It showed that they have convinced that the only border that they can defend is the border of Gaza itself, not inside Gaza. So they can't stay inside Gaza forever or for a long term. But in general, we think that it's all happened because of the influence from the United States, from Trump and the deep state. There's two opinions in that. The first opinion that the deep state pushed Netanyahu to sign this deal before Trump come to the power or come to the presidency. And the second opinion is that Trump himself pushed Netanyahu to sign this deal because he wanted to finish the struggle and finish the problems before he start his ruling. And when he was negotiating with Netanyahu about this deal, he promised him with three things. First of all, the eliminating of the threat from Yemen, and they are talking about the details about it, collecting the intelligence informations and stuff like that. And second is hitting Iran, put Iran on the line and hitting Iran with one of two options. First is a direct military attack, Air Force attack and rockets to the Iranian program for nuclear weapons. And the second option is the colorful revolution, working on the Iranian society from inside and working on the complaints that the people have from the regime, and start to put plans to work on moving the situation inside Iran, to work on the collapsing of the regime of Iran. So these two options are on the table. They are discussing what the most doable one. And the third promise that Trump promised Netanyahu is the normalization with Saudi Arabia, which is the birthday cake, you can say, for Saudi Arabia, because the normalization with Saudi Arabia is not only will open the door to the Saudi Arabia itself, it's opening the door with most of the Islamic world. We see expeditions from the Zionist entity going to Indonesia, Malaysia, trying to intervene in Pakistan in soft power to normalize with these countries. But the thing that's stopping them, that lots of Arab countries never normalized with the Zionist entity yet. And the most important one is Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia in the Islamic world has lots of big important because they have Mecca and Medina. They have this religious position in the Muslim world. And when the normalization happened between the Saudi Arabia and the Zionist entity, this will be followed by lots of deals between the Zionist entity and Islamic countries in Asia and Africa, which is very important for the Zionist entity diplomatically and economically. So these three promises, let's say, from the Biden administration to Netanyahu to stop the war and sign the deal, and we will work on them one by one: Yemen, Iran, and the normalization with Saudi Arabia. And the normalization with Saudi Arabia also, when it happened, it will happen or it will be aligned with a fatwa. A fatwa means religious justification from the religious people or the leader of the religious association in Saudi Arabia to justify the normalization with Israel with religious reasons that Prophet Muhammad, he make a deal with the non-Muslim people, and we are following his sunnah, and we have to sign this deal for the better for the Palestinians, because it will bring lots of benefits and economical benefits to the Palestinians and make their life better, and helping in the rebuilding Gaza and stuff like that.
And which of the three promises, if any, do you think Trump is most likely to deliver on?
I think Yemen at the beginning, and if they attack Yemen and they wanted to eliminate the threat from Yemen, it would be also a gift for Saudi Arabia itself to encourage them to work on the normalization path. So they are gathering information. They are spying through the satellites, the drones. Maybe they will use also the Yemeni opposition in the south to participate in this plan. So we don't know exactly what they are planning for Yemen. Definitely, there's something behind the scene happening, and they are planning to do something towards Yemen. They will never let Yemen by itself threatening the Zionist entity with rockets, with hypersonic rockets. They can't stop. They can't stop the rockets. They have no defense against this rocket. The Yemenis, when they decide, they just button and threaten the Zionist entity and send the 5 million Zionists to the underground and the protected areas. This is not going well with the Zionists, not going well with Netanyahu, not going well with Trump. So, according to the plans, I expect that they will start to work in Yemen. Nobody knows when, but at least they are preparing for it.
And that will be heavier bombardments or a ground invasion, or what will it look like? Because of course the country is very hard to conquer by ground because of its mountainous terrain.
It might be a huge bombardment aligned with a land attack from the opposition in the south, and also it will be also justified religiously from the leaders of the religious association in Yemen and Saudi Arabia that this Houthis are against the religion, and they are a bad group of Muslims, and they are threatening Yemen and put Yemen on the line.
Right. And the third point you mentioned is basically to revive the Abraham Accords. That seems to be something I think that might be easier to achieve, because my sense is that the Saudis don't really want to have the Palestinian issue resolved because they care, but just because they need to somewhat placate public opinion. But if they rather want the issue to go away, I think, than for it to be resolved.
Actually, yes, the Saudi Arabia normalization will be the easiest part. And the sign of it came before even the Aqsa flood, the 7th of October. At the beginning, the Saudi Arabia, they said that we will never do the normalization before we agree on a two-state solution, and the Palestinians, they get their land. And then the Saudis the plan is to do the normalization in the second period of Trump, which is he didn't win. So the coming of Biden put some obstacles on the plan, and now Trump is back, and the plan is back. This is also one of the reasons to stop the war on Gaza, because when Trump come back, he will work on the normalization with Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis they said just days before the 7th of October that we can do normalization not with the two-state solution for the Palestinians, but we can put the negotiation on the path of the two-state solution. So at the beginning, they said we have to agree on the two-state solutions, and then they said it's enough if we put the negotiation on the path before we normalize with Israel. And when you put the negotiation on the path, we know that this is something might take 50 years, 30 years, 100 years. Nobody knows. It's open.
It doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. So the Saudis are giving some more points, and they are taking more steps towards the normalization. And with the ceasefire in Gaza, the situation is more suitable for it.
Right. Ironically, the legitimation you described by Saudi Arabia for like going on the path towards a two-state solution is very similar logic to the justification of Zionism in the first place within Judaism, because of course technically Judaism says you cannot build a Jewish state until the Messiah returns, and then they said, well, we're on the way to the Messiah returning, so it's fine to build a Jewish state. So it's sort of the same logic there.
Exactly. Yeah, politicians, they use this like open goals to just to do their plans.
Yeah. Do you think that the deal can be described as a victory for the Palestinian resistance, as a defeat for the Zionist entity, as both, or as neither?
This is a good question. Actually, everybody was arguing about it in the latest days. I have something to say here that we are facing a war between a militia and an army, resistance and state, an entity in the shape of state. So in this kind of war, when you as a resistance stop your enemy from targeting their goals or achieving their goals, here we can say it's a victory, because in this kind of war there is no clear victory for anybody. The clear victory for the Zionist entity is to stop Hamas and finish Hamas from existence, and didn't happen. So when you stop the enemy from achieving their goals, this could be a kind of victory. So when we go to the goals of the war that Netanyahu put himself, he said that we have three main goals. First, eliminate Hamas militarily and administratively. They don't want Hamas to stay as a military power or a resistant or militia, and they want to end the ruling of Hamas in Gaza. They want to destroy Hamas in the administrative part, so they can't rule Gaza anymore. They want to destroy the association, the institution of the government of Gaza. So the people of Gaza, they wake up and find nobody ruling them, and they are just waiting someone to organize the situation, someone from outside, like the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank, or any authority coming from the Zionists and the Americans. This has never happened. Hamas militarily are still existed, still strong, not as before, but they are still existed, and they are still threatening the Zionist entity. They are a big threat and a big challenge for the Zionist entity. Now, I'm talking about now, even after the deal. So, eliminating Hamas, and the second goal was the return of the Zionist prisoners with force, with no negotiation, and they failed in this. So they failed in the first goal, and they failed in the second goal. The third goal was stop the threat from Gaza militarily, and also they failed in this because we also 2 days ago, a couple of days ago, when the Hamas parade came into Gaza, when they brought the prisoners, the Israeli prisoners, and they gave them to the Red Cross, and the celebration of the people around the fighters in their brand new cars and brand new weapons in the streets, celebrating, and the people are among the fighters in the streets, improve that we are still here, we are still strong militarily, and we are still ruling Gaza, and the people are with us. We are still threatening the Zionist entity. So this scene shows us that the military resistance never ends. They are still on ground. They are still surrounded by the people, and they are still having the weapons. And nobody is ruling the streets of Gaza except Hamas. The resistance, they are ruling the streets. And this is the big failure of the Zionist entity, because here the three goals of the war are failed.
Mm-hmm.
So from this situation, we can explain that the Zionist entity defeated in this war or this battle because they didn't reach their goals. And because they are the state fighting a militia, when they never achieve their goals, we can say comfortably that they are defeated.
Yeah.
We can say that the military or the resistance 100%, but they achieved most of their goals, even with the losses, the return of the Palestinian prisoners, the kicking out the military, the Zionist military from the land of Gaza, and stay ruling Gaza.
Yeah.
So these three goals of the Zionist military never achieved, and the goals of the resistance achieved. We saw the deal, and we saw the parts of the deal. It's very good for us after all this suffering and all this genocide.
Yeah, strangely, the deal, I believe, is so almost identical to a deal that was almost reached earlier in May of last year.
Exactly.
So
Actually,
why now? Why the same deal? Only what is it, like 8 months later?
exactly. There's 8 months between the May and today, and it's exactly the same deal, actually. But why now? It's because of the American elements I explained. Because of the Trump regime and his administration, they wanted to end the war to be free for other files like Yemen, Iran, Saudi Arabia, and also we don't know what the Americans are planning for, maybe China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Trump said in his inauguration speech that he wants to be remembered as a peacemaker. So I think it's interesting that he said he phrased it that way. So he didn't say, I want to be a peacemaker, but I want to be remembered. So it's for him also very important how he is framed. So do you think that this, yeah, is an indication that maybe, okay, he is ideologically anti-Iran, but he wants to wage war on Iran by other means, let's say, or on Yemen, etc.
Yeah, actually, when he said that he wanted to be a peacemaker, it means that he wanted to achieve the war goals without going through war with threatening. And this is exactly depending on his enemies. If they want to knee and accept his conditions, he will win. But the Palestinians and the war in Gaza taught us a lesson that fighting and fighting back is fruitful. And even if you are facing the United States, the Yemen fought the United States and the aircrafts in the Red Sea, three of them. And they attacked the three of the aircraft. The last one, Harry Truman, the Yemenis attacked it 8 times with rockets and drones. And this is something nobody dared to do it actually before. So this war is teaching the whole world a lesson, not to knee for the American conditions and fighting back. Of course, you will pay a huge price, but at least you will gain your country, your home, and your dignity. And many people they said that Gaza never win, Palestine never win because of all of the losses and the people and the kids killed and stuff like that. But this is normal when you are fighting a monsters, when you are fighting a genocidals. It's normal, and you have to be expecting to pay this price, a very high price. But in the history, no nation liberated without paying a huge price. From Vietnam to Algeria, the history is teaching us lessons, and Algeria kept fighting for 132 years. Palestine now we didn't complete the 100 year yet, so we are ready to pay the price because it's the price of the liberation. The huge losses is not a sign of defeating. The huge losses, it's part of the path of the liberation. And the Palestinian people, they know this very well because we've been sacrificing since 100 years against the English occupation and the Zionist occupation, and we paid a huge price, and we're still paying. This attack was the huge, the biggest, and the massive one, and we paid a huge price with destruction and the casualties, over 50,000 martyr and over 110,000 injured, plus the prisoners, plus the missing people. But we think it's the payable price, whatever, no matter what, because Palestinians and especially the Palestinian in Gaza, they are sacrificing people, and they are fighting for their country, and they are ready to defeat it with their souls. When we say Palestinian fighter, we say Fidai. Fidai in the Palestinian culture is the freedom fighter. Fidai means the one who gave his life for his country. So I'm doing Fidai, my soul, to my country. So being fighter is being Fidai. So it's expected to be martyrized anytime.
Mhm. Then the question becomes the the struggle over the past 15 months. The price, like you said, that was paid is enormous, but in what way did this contribute to the liberation of Palestine?
I think it's a big step towards the liberation because we shake the basics of the Zionist entity, which is fragile basically, and it's receiving the elements of standing from outside, not from inside, because they have nothing inside. The land is not for them. The community didn't want to fight. They are not a fighting people. They are depending on money, and money coming from outside, the intelligence coming from outside, the technology coming from outside. So the United States and the West in general, with their support to the Zionist entity, they are keeping it standing. Without the support, they will collapse in 5 minutes. We all know that. The Palestinians know that. And martyr Hassan Nasrallah, peace be upon him, he said that this entity is weaker than a spider net. And we know that, but the image that they are showing to the people and to the Palestinians, that they are a giant and they are brutal, they are bloodsuckers, to do the same thing, that same plan that Trump want. They want us to knee before fighting, just to be afraid from and terrified from the image that they want to us to show, to see about them. So when they are showing this image, they expect that we will be defeated and knee. Some Arabs will knee in the Gulf countries or regimes, of course, not people, but the Palestinians will never knee, and access of resistance will never knee. The freedom fighters in Lebanon, in Yemen, in Iraq, in Iran, they know the price of surrounding. When you obey, you will pay a bigger price than the price you pay when you fight. Because when you fight, you keep the hope of the liberation.
Yeah.
And Blinken said something just days before the deal signed. He said that Hamas could recruit the same number of casualties they lost in this war again.
Yeah.
So being able to recruit fighters to make over the losses that you lost in this war, and you recruiting the same number during the war, this is the miracle, and this is the message of the challenging that Palestinians are sending to the Americans and the Zionists. And this is coming from Blinken, the Jewish prime minister of the American state, and he confessed that Hamas could be able to recruit the same number of the fighters that they lost. It's all show that the fight will never end. It's just a truce. We don't know this truce will continue for how many years, but eventually the fight will be returned, because what happened in the 7th of October will never be wiped out from the Palestinian memory and the Arab memory and the world memory, that this entity is fragile, it's weaker than the spider net.
Do you think that this phase is over now? Because of course there is a ceasefire, but I've seen somewhat clear indications that in the near future the Zionist entity will resume the fight again, because specifically Smotrich has said before, I will vote against this deal, but I will not leave the coalition under the condition that I am given the guarantee that we will continue the fight on a large scale in the near future. Now the vote was taken and he said, I will not leave the coalition. So from that we can conclude that this guarantee was given.
Actually, this is expected, but I don't think in the near future, because they have files to finish first. As I said, working on Yemen, working on Iran, and the normalization with Saudi Arabia. Especially after the normalization with Saudi Arabia, they might start thinking and implementing any plan. They are preparing to reinitiate the war on Gaza again. So this is expected. it's not far, but there's also a challenging message coming from a leader in the military part of Hamas called Hussein Fayyad. Hussein Fayyad, he is the leader of the Beit Hanun Battalion. Beit Hanun Battalion in the far north of Gaza on the first front against the Zionist entity in the north of Gaza. Daniel Hagari in last May announced his kill in the battles, and yesterday he came out on the streets with the people in a video, and they call him the leader with seven souls, challenging and promising the Zionists with more battles. And he said that I'm still alive and preparing new generations of Palestinians to keep the fighting and keep the resilience. So that's why, and that's explain why the Zionist entity chose the genocide on Palestine. They were targeting the kids, not a collateral damage. They were targeting the kids because they know these kids are the future fighters, and they said it. Many of them, they said that we have to kill the kids because they are the future fighters. So the genocide was targeting the kids in the first place because they want to end the Palestinians' existence in this land. Of course, it's impossible, but okay, we lost casualties, but still, about the far right of the Netanyahu governments, because they are all right wing, but the far right, Smotrich and Ben Gvir, they've been promised by Netanyahu to make it over, make the deal over with encouraging the settlements in West Bank, and he promised them that he will get an announcement and recognition from the United States of adding and joining more lands from the West Bank formally to the Zionist entity, like they did with Jerusalem in the first period of Trump. He promised Ben Gvir and Smotrich that I will get a recognition from Trump to add the land of West Bank, or most of the land of the West Bank, to the Zionist entity land formally, and this will make them come and maybe shut their mouth about the deal and not resigning from the government. Nothing is sure right now. Maybe they will keep fighting back inside the Zionist entity. Of course, the Zionist entity from inside, internal front, is not the best situations. They have lots of struggle inside, political struggle between the powers and between the parties, between the far wing, far left wing, and the far right wing and the right wing. So we'll see what's going to happen between them. But in general, the basic ruler of the Zionist entity is the one who stays in the White House. They are taking the main positions and the main decisions of the Zionist entity, external politics, from the White House, not from the Zionist entity itself. So they can fight among themselves as they want, but at the end, the deal signed by order from the United States, and what the United States order, they will obey, because they can't live without the support from the United States. They can't exist even without the support from the United States.
Yeah, like Joe Biden said once, back when he was still not senile, he said, if there weren't an Israel, we would have to create one, which of course they did. But if you look right now, the response to the deal within the Zionist entity, unlike in Gaza, from what I've seen, the opinions are divided. So there's people protesting against making a deal. Are there any people within Gaza who are against this deal, or are people across the board they're just for now happy that at this point at least the military campaign is over and they can walk outside without being afraid of bombs coming down?
Actually, the people of Gaza is tired from war, and it's very normal. I can say that every single one in Gaza is happy with the truce, happy with the deal. The ones who support Hamas, which is most of the people of Gaza, they are happy. They are happy with the deal because they trust the resistance and its decisions. And even the people who doesn't like Hamas or the resistance in Gaza, they are very happy with the truth because they are resting now. And, they can take their breath. But the most important thing to focus on now is rebuilding Gaza, and we expect that the countries from the Gulf, like Qatar and the UAE and Saudi Arabia, will pay massive large numbers of money to rebuild Gaza because they need to. They need to make their face and their image better. They want to correct their image because when you are conspiring on the kids' blood, you have to do something after that for your people to whiten your face and clear your page. They want to pay a lots of money to show their people and the Islamic world that we are helping the Gazans and rebuilding their houses, infrastructure, hospitals, helping the injured, etc. Not only the Gulf people, the Gulf countries, the countries of Arab countries in general, Egypt, Jordan, everybody want to show that he's good for the people of Gaza and the Palestinian cause. And this is the maximum limit they can reach, the relief only. Relief and rebuilding and paying money. This is the limit that they are allowed to do. But in politics, in deals, in military, they have no decisions.
Mhm.
But they can do that to improve their situation and improve their face in front of their people. And this is what we expected. I hope it happened quickly because people are tired, people are homeless. Lots of efforts needed now in Gaza. It's urgent. The war on poverty and hunger didn't end yet. So not only Saudi Arabia, even the Palestinians all over the world will participate in that, and the people of the world in general, يعني, to gather donations to support Gaza and to relieve the people of Gaza after all this 15 horrible 15 months happened in Gaza and the bombing and the losing their houses and the destruction.
Yeah. Part of this is also what I'm worried about because, like you said, this is the most urgent thing to rebuild, to make sure people have shelter again, to rebuild the hospitals, to rebuild the schools, to rebuild the power grid, the water, etc. But when I look at the deal, the conditions for reconstruction are to be negotiated in a later phase. And I believe from the start that the main goal of Israel is not what they say, to destroy Hamas, but their real goal is to empty Gaza of Palestinians.
Mm-hmm.
And what I am afraid of is that they will try to create the conditions where right now supporting life in the most basic sense in Gaza is of course very much harder because most buildings have been destroyed. So what I'm afraid of is that they will try to create the conditions where reconstruction becomes either impossible or extremely slow, so that many people will either die or leave because of these conditions without them having to send in their military again to complete the job. So what do you think about that?
Actually, emptying Gaza from the Palestinians was one of the goals, but not from the formal goals that adopted by the government. But many of the far right wing people in the Zionist entity were talking about it, that we want to empty Gaza from the people and resettle the settlers inside Gaza. And this also failed actually in during this battle, and failed during all this 15 months. Now we don't know exactly their plans, but we think that some of the people of Gaza, they will leave. But if we remember in 2008-2009 war, the people of Gaza was 1.5 million. Now the people of Gaza is 250,000 people in Gaza. So even if we lost, or if 200,000 or 500,000 Gazans left Gaza, Gaza will still standing demographically and militarily, because we stood in the face of the Zionist entity since the 50s in Gaza. And then it was only a couple of hundred of thousands of Palestinians living in Gaza Strip. So even if some people of Gaza left, this will never end the existence of the Palestinians in the West Bank, and it will never make conditions to the Zionists to settle in Gaza in any way. If we said that the military, with their tanks and their concrete buildings and huge tanks, they couldn't stay in Gaza, the military with all this sensors and technology they have, they couldn't stay in Gaza. If we talk about settling in Gaza as a civilians, it's impossible. You're kidding, because the Zionists are very afraid about their lives, military or settlers. So settling in Gaza is impossible now and in future. Emptying Gaza from Palestinians are impossible now and in future. I said even if some of the Gazans left the strip to outside, it's expected, but it's not going to be a big deal, because Gaza basically is one of the most crowded areas in the world. People are living next to each other, on the top of each other. You can talk about Jabalia refugee camp, one of the biggest refugee camps in the world, with 250,000 population in a very small area, 2 kilo by 2 kilo, and this is very crowded for Gaza. Even if we say 1/4 of the Gazans left the strip, Gaza will stay crowded as well.
Right. So, of course, what you describe is that this is not likely to succeed, or it's impossible to succeed. But that does not mean that this is not the Zionist strategy. So do you think, regardless of how likely it is that it will succeed, that it will very much be the intention of the Zionist entity to hinder reconstruction as much as possible?
Yeah, it's expected, but they might make it as a price of normalization with Saudi Arabia, as I said. And the Saudi Arabia will show themselves as the ones who let the aid and support and the constructions elements to enter Gaza in the price of normalization. So this is one of the scenarios, because I think the Zionists, the strategic leaders of the Zionist entity, they are convinced that the project of emptying Gaza is failed. So working on a failure project is not logic. So after 15 months, they are trying, and the resilience and the steadfasting of the Palestinians with their land, it was legendary and surprised everybody, surprised the Zionists, surprised the Arabs, surprised the world. Nobody expected that Palestinians will hold with their land like this, even if they die. Many of the Palestinians, they said, even if we died, we rather die than being refugees, because the Palestinians between 2005 and 2023, they tasted the taste of liberation. They tasted that they are ruled by Palestinians, not the Zionists. From 2005, when the Zionists left the Gaza Strip and dismantled all the settlements inside Gaza, Palestinians left among the strip freely. They are free to travel inside the strip. They can rule themselves. No Zionist inside. So they taste the freedom, and they love their country, and they love it more when they liberated from the Zionists. It's the first time in Palestinian life that they are ruled by Palestinians, not by any occupation. It's time to die. So this gain, they will never let it. They will never let it. This make Palestinian people in Gaza hold tight with their land more than before, and that's why I think the Zionists they will never work on this plan again, because they know it's not doable plan, and they will empty themselves for another plans, like working on another threats in Yemen and Iran. Plus, they will keep watching Gaza, and they will keep putting the concrete and sensors and making a siege around Gaza even more than before, using the drones and balloons and the latest technology, of course, cybersecurity and everything they can reach. They will be more careful about Gaza. Any actions coming from Gaza, I think, will be reflected from the Zionist entity in a violent way, in a very violent way. So, in this period, we are focusing on continuing the deal, taking the prisoners out of the prison, and rebuilding Gaza. This is what we are focusing on in this phase. And for the military resistance, they are okay. They lost lots of their power, lots of their leaders, but they are okay. They are not in the perfect condition, but they are okay. It's war, and they are expecting that, and they are approving it, and they are ready to pay the price. As long as the resistance is existed militarily and on the ground among the people, things is okay.
Right. Yeah. I lost what I wanted to say. Oh yeah, sorry. So it is the case, absolutely, that the Zionist entity has paid an extremely high price for committing this genocide in terms of losses to its economy, demographically. This week I heard that there is an extremely rapid growth in the Jewish population of my country, the Netherlands, and the main factor of that is because a lot of Jewish people are migrating away from the Zionist entity. So there seems to be, in this sense, a sort of demographic, you could say, collapse, or at least deflation. What do we know about the military price they have paid for this? I believe they claim that they lost like 405 people killed in action in total. This seems like a ridiculously low number.
This I can see here the last question.
So the Zionist entities say they lost, I believe, 405 people killed in action in Gaza over the last 15 months. What do we know? Of course, this is much lower than reality. What do we know about the human price they have paid for this genocide?
The Jewish price,
The human
the
price, how
Zionist.
many people they lost?
Yeah, in the 7th of October, they announced that they lost 1,200 casualty. It's a huge number, according to any war that the Zionist entity intervened since the establishment of the Zionist entity. And since then, 405 military people got killed inside Gaza. This is not counting settlers who get killed by the rockets or by the attacks, and not counting also the casualties lost in West Bank front and Lebanon front. Of course, they are using the lots of mercenaries in the army from Philippines, India, and etc. To cover their losses. And in the Zionist media, they are talking about 250,000 shekel paid extra to the soldiers' family who never announce their kids killed in the battle. So plus the return and the money that they get from the government for their military or soldier got killed. If they didn't announce it, they get extra 200,000, 250,000 shekel just because they didn't count their kid or their son among the losses in the Zionist entity. The Zionist entity not only lost casualties, which is important, but the most important is they lost the trust in their entity. They lost the trust that they can exist and continue in this entity, and they lost the feeling of safety, and they are worried about the future and worry about the future of their kids. If we face 7th of October, what our kids will face. This is what we are talking about. That's why hundreds of thousands of Zionists left the Zionist entity forever. Nobody knows the real number because they're covering it. They are not talking about it. But in general, they've been depending on a certain shape of struggle with the Arabs, depending on the element of surprise, the early warning, and the short wars. So these three elements they lost in this war because in the 7th of October they lost the element of surprise and they lost the early warning, and they couldn't make it a short war. It's the longest war in the history of the Zionist entity. There was 6 days and 20 days and 33 days, but talking about 471 days, it's something out of mind. They can't imagine, even the Zionists themselves. They can't imagine that they went to a war this long. Even if they're fighting militia, because they didn't used to it. So they said if in 2023 we have 15 years, 15 months of war, the next war will be how long? What our kids will face.
Yeah.
So the 7th of October, they destroy the ideology of the Zionist army. They are depending on the image of fear. They are depending on the element of surprise, the early warning, and making short wars, taking as much as they can from the benefits, and end the war with the minimum casualties and the minimum losses. If you are looking to the losses economically, it's huge, it's massive. If we are looking to the casualties, it's also huge. If we are looking to the image of the Zionist entity who collapsed in front of their enemies, the Yemeni, they said, who is the Zionist entity to fear? We are not fearing the Zionist entity. We are depending on God, and we are firing our rockets. And the Iranians, the same. The Lebanese, the same. They are the ones who put the theory of the spider net. And this is what make the Zionists fear more, that our enemy never fear us. Even with 100,000 ton of bombs on a small area like Gaza, equal 3 or 4 nuclear bombs, even with all this brutality, with more than 50, 60,000 killed in the genocide, even with all this brutality, the Palestinians and the axis of resistance, they are not afraid from the Zionist entity. Until now, they failed in fearing us. They want us to be feared because they want to get benefits from us, lands and political deals, without fighting. So this is what they are gaining from this image they are building. This is what Trump talked about. I want to make peace because he want to make his enemy obey for free. He didn't want to make war. This is not peace. This is threatening the people and the nations and make them fear you and me. And this is what they couldn't do in Gaza. So I think Gaza is teaching a lesson. The whole world should understand and take this lesson, not to surround for the surrender for the enemy. Now they are targeting Iran with, or they want to target Iran with colorful revolution from inside to dismantle the association, the society, like they did in Iraq, like they did in Syria. Now they try with Iran, even in Venezuela, they are still trying to dismantle the society, making stabilization of the political situation inside the country. So this lesson, Gaza taught to the people, to the world, people should take and benefit from it. Actually. Never knee and keep resilient and keep fighting, and you will stay existed. If you are fighting, people will be among you, and you will keep existed. Even if you defeated in one battle, you will never be defeated in the struggle.
Yeah, you mentioned this element of the Zionist entity needs the Arab peoples to be afraid in order to exist and to get its will. So, related to this, what do you think is the significance of the way Yahya Sinwar was killed?
Yahya Sinwar, he made this step and changed the world. He changed the world because the movement that he did and the war that he started, and he took the element of surprise, and he took the element of the early warning from the Zionists, and initiate this war, huge war, to 15 months. This movement that Yahya Sinwar did changed the world. How changed the world? Brought Trump to the power because of the way that Biden administration deal with the war, with the genocide. This is, I think, the main reason that Trump came back to the power, and that's why Yahya Sinwar changed the world actually by his movement, by doing and by specifying who is winning the White House. I think the butterfly effect coming from Gaza affected on the American elections. And this is not really bad, actually, because we know that the Democratic and the Republicans are the two faces of the same coin. But Bringing Trump make things more clear. We saw his minister the when he did the Nazi salute when
Yeah,
he
Elon
did
Musk.
this, Elon Musk, and this clearancy is good, I think, because it show everything on its real face. And I think that many changes will happen in Trump period, the second period, and the struggle between Trump administration and the deep state will be more sharp, and we'll see lots of changes in the United States. Facing a huge problem with the debts. The pyramid of the debts reach over $35 trillion, and it's almost 100% of the United States, and it's a dangerous sign. I think that with the struggle between Trump and the deep state, the internal struggle inside the United States will affect on the United States itself and its economy. They are trying to get more gas from the land, and the oil fields reach the top and the maximum powerful of producing oil, so they can't work on this. So I think they are coming to the collapse of the pyramid of debts soon, and internal struggle will make it faster, and then we'll see lots of changes among the Zionist entity and the Palestinian cause, and in all over the world.
Yeah. Yeah, to briefly get back to Sinwar though, you mentioned like his role, leading role in initiating Operation Al-Aqsa Flood, but what I was actually referring to was the way he died, because he died fighting. He died regardless of if you're sympathetic to the Palestinian cause or not. He died a hero's death, and because you mentioned that. As long as the enemies of the Zionist entity are not afraid of the Zionist entity, they can resist it. I think that this, this image of the 62-year-old man who was still fighting, even though he was wounded, and he was still resisting to his last moment. I think that also really symbolizes the way that the Palestinian struggle has proven itself to be defiant in the face of Zionist aggression over the last 15 months. So do you think that this image of Sinwar throwing the stick at the drone, that this is something that will come to define maybe this entire conflict over the past 15 months, and come to symbolize Palestinian resistance at this moment?
During the last 100 years, we have lots of Palestinian symbols and Palestinian fighters and heroes, lots of images like this, but I think the greatest image in this 100 year was the image of Sinwar fighting to the last breath. This is the crowning of Palestinian sacrificing, this crowning Palestinians' resilience. And this is the symbol of the normal Palestinian. The normal Palestinian is the fighter. And he's not a normal Palestinian, he's a leader. He's the first leader, Palestinian leader, martyrized fighting, not by assassination from the air or something like this. He chose actually to fight to the last breath. They didn't catch him, they didn't take him from underground. It shows that he'd been fighting since the beginning of the war. Nobody knew where he was. This image not only gave the Palestinians the spirit to keep fighting, this image gave an example to the world that this is the heroic image of the Palestinian hero, the Palestinian leader, who represent his people in the right way. He said many of the Palestinians got martyred, and I am not better than any Palestinian. And he said before the war that we are coming with a flood to the Zionist entity. And he was talking about the Aqsa flood many times, but nobody take his word seriously. Actually, nobody knew that he was planning for it in real. And he said that if the Zionist entity, if this enemy want to give me a favor, they will kill me because I don't want to live long. I want to be a martyr after more than 20 years in the prisons of the Zionist entity and still fighting and leading battalions of fighters and choosing to fight on the top of the ground and choosing to die on his soil fighting the invasion army. So this symbol will live with us till the last of our days, and not our days only, the days of the generation who never born yet. Everybody will learn this lesson from Sinwar and his sacrifice and his championship and all the Palestinian leaders, of course. And by the way, there's lots of leaders of Hamas announced that they are killed by the Zionist entity, but it appeared that they are still alive. So Sinwar wanted this fight. He wanted to show everybody that I'm fighting, and he didn't want to cover his sacrifice. He wanted the whole world to see his sacrifice and his fighting to be a symbol, and that his blood will be a fuel for the next generations to keep fighting and keep resistance.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fitting note to end on for today. So thank you for your insights, and yeah, we'll talk again soon.
Thank you so much.